Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to SRJC, and for those of you who are new, welcome to SRJC. Last spring, towards the end of the semester, Ron Myers walked into my office and informed me who the Staff Development Committee had selected to be their keynote speaker, and I asked with great interest whom that might be. He gave me his sly smile, and for those of you who know him over these 37 years, you knew you were in trouble. He said, "They want to hear from me," and I was delighted and honored that my colleagues would like to hear from their president. And I think it's really timely that we're less than 2 years away from our 100th anniversary, and I'm into now my 5th year as your superintendent president. Of course, I've been thinking about what to say during the summer, and this speech will be entitled, Envisioning Our Future, the Second 100 Years. I can't imagine talking about the future of SRJC without reflecting on our recent past, the current state of the college, and so my talk will be a three-parter, kind of looking at how things have gone on my watch, more recently the state of the college today as I see it in this past year, and then the fun part, envisioning the future. And I think what I'm going to talk about is when I came here before you 5 years ago, and those of you who are here, I promised that I'd help make a great college even better with your support. And today I believe we've done that. And let me talk about the 4 P's: people, place, plan, and practice. The people. We have seen a great change in our faculty and staff, particularly the faculty. The faculty, as Eric knows and talks as the Academic Senate President, is the backbone of any educational institution. You are in the front lines. And this is particularly true at Santa Rosa Junior College, where faculty in this community and this state have almost a mythical reputation. Rarely does a day go by when I don't meet a successful attorney. I just had lunch with an accountant who's an SRJC grad, a medical professional, my dentist when I'm in the chair like this. I went to the JC. And you hear that story, I'm sure all of you, when you go in your everyday life in the community. And it's really, what they say to me is almost I can tell you what they're going to say before they say it. And I know you're thinking the same thing. They say, "Dr. Chong, the hardest and most challenging and most rigorous class I ever took was at Santa Rosa Junior College. And it prepared me for my transfer, it prepared me for my career, it prepared me for the successful career that I have today. And now I'm sending my children here." So I want to congratulate the faculty for your dedication. Let's give yourselves a big round of applause. And as you know, in my summer letter, I said we're experiencing a sea change of sorts, a change of generational change. And, you know, it really is quite dramatic. I think Mary Kay and I and Ricardo, we spent the last 3 or 4 years interviewing as one of our main jobs, as you as committees have done. I think currently we have over 100 full-time faculty who are on tenure review. So we've hired a lot of people. In fact, 39% of our staff has changed over from when I started 5 years ago. 37% of the faculty, 39% of the staff, and 48% of the managers and administrators. And at the same time, I think we've made some major strides in diversifying our staff. In the Latino composition of our workforce, our classified staff in the last 5 years has increased 70%. Our faculty diversity has increased 51%, and our management has increased 125%. And I want to thank everyone who served on those committees for responding to the challenge that I made a few years ago when I said, without diversity, there is no excellence. And I truly believe that we are in a better place and a better position to serve the changing demographics of Sonoma County and of the college student body. And of course, our student body is changing too, and I'll get into that later in a brief PowerPoint presentation. Our international student program has grown from 65 when I arrived to 225 today, largely through the efforts of Peg Saragina, our tireless Director of International Students Program. Let's give Peg a big round of applause. Our classified staff continues to be amongst the hardest working and most productive, loyal staff who take great pride in their work every day. I want to thank Kathy Mathis, Debbie Weatherly, and Hillary for their leadership. Let's give them a round of applause. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention of the people. We've talked about classified, faculty, our managers, is our board of trustees. It's an outstanding board. It's one of the reasons I came here. We've had some changes in the board, and people are wondering, well, how's the new board members getting along with the older board members? And I have to say, without hesitation, that we're doing just fine. That the incumbent board members and the veteran board members have welcomed with open arms the new ideas and the new faces on the board, and we're working as a cohesive team. So thank you, board, for your support. I really appreciate it. And now let's talk about place. This place, this campus, Petaluma, Southwest, Public Safety Center, Schoen Farm. What an extraordinary amount of beautiful facilities, but aging facilities, and we know that. So as we approach our 100th year anniversary, one of the major initiatives we undertook with your support was to pass Measure H, $410 million, the largest bond in the history of Sonoma County. And that to me is an endorsement from the community about the great work that we're doing here. And it's an investment that we don't take lightly. It's a lot of money that our taxpayers are putting out. And so we underwent, a plan, and I'll get into later the 2030 plan. So, and then the other P, the plan, the strategic plan. When I arrived and I did a survey of all of you and said, what are the things that you'd like to see me do as a president? What consistently came up was, we need a strategic plan. So we undertook an 18-month exercise that was transparent, inclusive, participatory, and many of your thumbprints are on that plan, and it's really a rich document that I think really reflects our values and aspirations as a premier institution of higher education. You know how I know it's working? When I interview finalists and I ask them, why do you want to work at SRJC? Many of them will refer to our strategic plan and say that those values of sustainability, diversity, academic excellence, beauty resonates with them. So I want to really thank all of you who had something to do with putting this plan together, and now it's really gratifying to see it in its implementation stage. So thank you. The fourth P, practice. I challenged you 5 years ago to help transform the college from an organization of compliance to one of innovation and entrepreneurship, and you have really, really responded. We've made some great strides. We have eliminated paper applications for employment. And it resulted in, 3 times the number of applications we were receiving. So I really want to thank Karen Furukawa, Sarah Hopkins, Scott Conrad, and his IT team for making this happen. Let's recognize them. And we recently eliminated NOAs, paper NOAs, and I've asked our folks, all of you, to think about other reductions of paper processes, ad infinitum signatures of all of these forms. I don't want you spending your valuable time doing paperwork. We have to still be compliant, but we have to think about how to do things more efficiently, and we will be doing that. In the area of entrepreneurship, again, our federal grants from the day I arrived have increased threefold. The HSI grant for $2.65 million has been a transformational grant, and I really want to recognize all the folks who've been working on these grants with NSF, with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, many of the grants that are coming in. We still are busy at it. I particularly have to give some recognition to our Dean, Kathy Prince. Thank you, Kathy, for your leadership. Our foundation continues to be one of the leading foundations in the California community college system. We currently have an endowment, depending on the stock market, of about $47 million. Unheard of for a community college to have that type of endowment. And we have begun the efforts to go through, as Kathy mentioned, a $15 million campaign for our 100th anniversary. And those dollars are going to mean a lot for our students and for the faculty. We already have secured 5 $100,000 pledges, and I want to recognize them. And I got a 6th with Kate McClintock twisting somebody's arm yesterday. So those 6 organizations and partners are Exchange Bank, Clover Stanetta Farms, I always drink Clover, Sarah and Darius Anderson, the Conning Foundation, American Ag Credit, and yesterday we were able to nail down Kaiser Permanente. So let's give them a big round of applause. And people are saying, well, what's this money going to be used for? Well, we've been working with the donors to say you can earmark it in areas that you think will have greatest impact in the community. So Connie Cotting has donated and earmarked her money and her $100,000 to supporting foster youth at Santa Rosa Junior College. So it's going to make a big difference. So let's look at this past year, the year in review. It's the type of report that I gave in my president's address to the college community in the spring. The 2030 plan, a blueprint for excellence, I call it. Through the leadership of James Haldonatale, Lee Sada, Robin Fontley, we have really moved great strides in making sure that we have a plan. And during this fall, we're going to start basically revealing the plan to the college community to get your input. And I think the rest of Sonoma County will be very excited to see what we have in store. There's been a lot of enthusiasm from faculty and staff. I've been impressed with the ingenuity of the faculty and a lot of the ideas that have been brought forth. And look at the place we're standing in now. I think in Burbank. Can you please put up the slide about Burbank? So this is Burbank as it exists today from the exterior. And I want to show you again the slide that Kathy stole my thunder, but that's okay. Great minds think alike. Can you show the slide of what it can look like after its modernization? Okay. So you see we're going to have a terrace out there where you won't fall down those steep steps, and we're going to kind of make it a lot more elegant in terms of developing a place where people can have a larger lobby, interior and an exterior terrace. And what I'm really excited about is this, what I call the Newman South. It's a 200-seat lab that's going to be multi-use. That's going to be for lectures, recitals, and I want to show you the interior of Burbank as it's going to be raked. So when I went to see the show at SRTA, I had the misfortune of sitting behind a 6'5" gentleman, and it's going like this. So, and many of you have experienced that, so can we show them some of the interior of what it looks like today? I'm sure you haven't seen this picture before, depending on what seat you're in, and then we'll give you a rough sketch of what it's going to look like, the sight lines. It's going to be rather very friendly for the performers. It's going to have the latest technology, and a whole new orchestra pit. It looks kind of bare there, but it will be much better. Okay, so this upgrade of the auditorium will be our first project out of the gates. And what it will do is it will unveil our masterpiece for our Centennial in 2018. So I really want to thank the 234 faculty, staff, administrators, and students who served on the 2030 Planning Committee. If you served on the committee, please stand. If you were part of this plan, I want to show people in the audience how many people really were part of this. Thank you so much. But more than anything, SRJC's greatest achievements this past year has been our student achievements. This past spring at our 97th commencement, I'm proud that we awarded over 2,200 degrees to over 1,600 students. That's the largest in the history of the JC and 10% increase from the previous year. So it shows that our completion agenda is working. You know, many of these men and women will have transferred to UC Berkeley, Sonoma State, UC Davis, Cal Poly SLO, Cornell, and the University of Michigan. We also had a wonderful celebration of our career technical education, students receiving certificates. Over 500 students participated. And I really want to thank Jerry Miller and all of the CTE faculty for your support. Many of them are getting really good paying jobs and contributing to their community, and thanks to their education here. And I'm kidding with many of my local business friends that I have lunch with, saying thanks for hiring them, and I'll be calling you for a finder's fee, a donation. You know, I believe many of our students' achievements are due to the increased investment we've made both in the Student Success Fund and student equity. In the past 2 years, we've received over $3 million to support persistence and completion. And we've increased the number of students receiving comprehensive ed plans by tenfold in the last 3 years. Please give all the counseling department and all the counselors a round of applause for stepping up. Thank you. We've been extending our library hours and book loan program. We're providing more scholarships and financial support. Our Doyle scholarships have increased threefold in the last 3 years. We're now offering a second-year Doyle, and it's really exciting. We're going to be unveiling that very soon. We've established learning communities for African American, Latino, Asian Pacific American. I'm very excited to say Native American students, thanks to Brenda Flies-Woodhawk's leadership. Thank you, Brenda. We started to provide food vouchers for food insecure students, and we are going to deal with the homelessness issue. I really appreciate and applaud Kathy for being a strong advocate. I have met with the city, the county leaders, to really discuss how to address student housing as an issue. And we've been meeting with developers to look at developing a public-private partnership where they may be able to build residence halls on our land and open residence halls. So development is not an easy thing to do. It's quite honestly one of my areas or many of our areas of expertise, but we'll be relying on our board, many of the experts who support the college who are in the area of development to come forward. And I ask you to please be patient, but we are on it. You know, so all told, we've touched over 7,000 students in our Student Success, Student Equity programs. We have a record number of student clubs, thanks to the hard work of Robert Ethington and his staff. We have an all-time high in student engagement, and we have the most diverse student government in over 15 years. And I really want to recognize our ASG president, Jordan Cabahal, and Mr. Diaz from the Petaluma campus. Could you please stand and be recognized? And Sabrina Lawson, our student trustee. I don't know if she's in the audience. I'm hoping she'd be here today. Thank you, Sabrina. So now that you've heard the numbers, let's put some faces to these folks. And these are some students that I think epitomize many of our students. And these are stories that I shared last spring. And the first person is Claudia Ochoa. Claudia was only 15 years old when she came to the United States, crossing the border on foot. Her journey was not easy surviving in America, and as a Dreamer student was no easier. She finished high school only to find that she had to put her education on hold and had to work to support her family. She decided to go back to school and focused on ESL, math, and eventually enrolled in our SRJC nursing program, which you know is not an easy one to get into. It was 5 long years on a bumpy road, but Claudia says it's all worth it now, and she is a graduate of our ADN program. She's currently studying for her board exams and has already been offered a position in the neurology department at St. Joseph's Memorial. Let's recognize Claudia Ochoa. EFOM. I met E when she worked as a student assistant in my office from Vietnam following her brother, Duc Pham, and many of you know that Duc is currently studying at Cornell getting his doctorate degree. But I didn't know how driven she was until I got to know her better. She worked on multiple jobs in 3 offices to keep her, to support her schoolwork while maintaining a high GPA. She applied to Cornell to follow in her brother's footsteps and intended to study design and was elated when she was told she was accepted 2 years ago. However, they offered her no financial aid and she was devastated. But E wouldn't take no for an answer. She knew that scholarships and majors in STEM were more available, so she took more science classes and math classes, intending to reapply to Cornell in the following spring. She began her application and decided that design was her real passion and she would reapply in that program, and she kept her hopes alive for financial aid. I'm thrilled to tell you that the office came through with a few calls. She is now getting a free ride and a full ride to Cornell as a design major. E is a shining example of your handiwork with you as faculty, counselors, librarians, and as a student worker, it was a great opportunity for her to learn the ins and outs of the college. The final student I'm going to recognize is Alec Renard, a graduate of Maria Carrillo High School. Alec is the starting pitcher for the SRJC baseball team last year. He's the third of 4 boys in the family who have attended SRJC. I talked to his dad during the state championships, and he says, I have another one coming, Dr. Chong, don't worry. And Damon's very happy about that. This guy was 14-1. He had a 6-0 record. I think the San Francisco Giants might call on him before the University of Michigan. But, in addition to his athletic accomplishment, he's receiving 3 degrees in biology, chemistry, and natural sciences. He's pre-med, and he's now at the University of Michigan on a scholarship, and he plans to pursue medicine as a career. So let's give Alec some recognition. So these students are just a few of those who make SRJC the pride of Sonoma County. And I'm often asked, Dr. Chong, in the community, I hear SRJC is the #1 school in the nation, in California, and I basically say, I don't know if we're #1, but we're close. And let me just give you some metrics. SRJC is #1 in UC transfer acceptance among large community colleges in California. 75% of JC students who apply to UC campus are accepted. The statewide average is 45%. You do the math. #1 in transfer to Sonoma State. Last year, according to Casey Grady, my crack institutional researcher, we transferred more students to Sonoma State than any high school or any other community college, 351 students. We're #2 in the nation in granting short-term certificates in our CTE programs. SRJC was named for the 4th time by the Chronicle of Higher Education as a great college to work for. We are 2015 Green Community College Leadership Award for recognizing SRJC's Sustainable Agriculture program at Schoen Farm. Let's give Schoen Farm a shout out. In 2016, led by Coach Hal Sanford, Santa Rosa Junior College's students captured both the state and national championships in parliamentary debate. Thank you, Hal. He's one of my coaches, too, and he makes me nervous when he has a pencil with a pad when I'm talking. This year, our SRJC Polar Hockey men's team won the state championship. How many community colleges have a hockey team, and a good one? And I traveled to Fresno with my wife this spring, and she was real thrilled to go to Fresno for the weekend, right after graduation, to witness our baseball team winning the state championship. And let's give Damon and his staff a big shout out. So while this sounds very impressive, let me remind ourselves that our work is not done. We're #1 now, but not because we simply do what we must, but because we strive to continually improve. And if Eric can quote all these fancy Walton people. I can quote Aristotle, who said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. So I am now going to move away from the podium, and I have a quote I want to read first by Jim Collins, who wrote a book called Good to Great. It's one of my Bibles that I use. And it basically says, all good to great companies began by confronting the brutal facts of their current reality. When you start with an honest and diligent effort to determine the truth of your situation, the right decisions often become self-evident. You must create a culture wherein people have tremendous opportunities to be heard and ultimately for the truth to be heard. Creating a climate where truth is heard, you must lead with questions, not answers. Engage in dialogue and debate, not coercion. Conduct autopsies without blame. Build red flag mechanisms that turn information into that which cannot be ignored. It is with that sense of collaboration and honesty that I say, as we approach the future and our coming fall, our number one challenge, as was stated previously, is our enrollment. And I really wanted to step away from the podium and kind of go through. I hope I have a little better luck with this. So this is the challenge we have, and this is the question I ask of all of you. 20,000 FTES in 2020. This is a campaign that I'm proposing the college undertake in order to get us to a place where we can be more financially sound and a place where we can serve more students who need to be in college. So I met weekly this summer with Casey Graney, our great institutional researcher, and asked her, is this a pipe dream or is this a possibility? And give me the facts, the truth, the brutal facts. And she said, we've done it before, and if you look at the slide, during the recession, we were over 20,000. And one thing you need to note is that the dark red is credit, and the yellow-orange is non-credit. So one of the areas that we have had to cut back during the recession was in non-credit, and we're starting to build it back up. We're not going to be able to get to 20,000 FTS just on credit alone. And we can do it again because the population actually in Sonoma County is not declining like many counties or flat. We're steadily growing. So we have more bodies coming. And if you look at the demographics again, the fastest growing demographic in Sonoma County continues to be Latino students. And the white is declining, but not a lot, but not as much as it used to be in the future. So how are we going to do it? How are we going to get to those areas? And as Lee Collier reminded me, the three legs on a stool for enrollment management is recruitment, scheduling, retention, and student success. And I'm not an expert in these areas. I've studied them from more of a policy level. You study them and practice them. But Casey said also, Dr. Chong, we can get there, but we can't get there by being the same as we've been. So that was really something that was enlightening to me. So one of the areas I asked her was, Casey, could you identify some targeted populations that we can grow, where we have potential to grow? And these are the 5 that she identified. Let me remind you, this is not an all-inclusive list, and it's not set in stone, but it's as an opening point for conversation, okay? Clearly, the Latino population is growing. You see it in your classrooms. You see it in the community. And I think by hiring and us being intentional of bringing more diversity, bringing more Spanish-speaking, culturally competent folks on board, not to say that those who are here are incompetent, but it's very, very powerful when you see a faculty member that looks like you and had the same story. Many of our faculty members that we hired were actually JC students who are now back in the classroom. And that shows what a good job you did. The older adult population, I'll show you some slides later, but as you go around the county, this is a wonderful place for people to retire, and we're getting a lot of graybeards here. Middle class students, those are our traditional high school students. Incumbent workers, these are folks who are working but they are not currently pursuing higher education or further training or certificates. And then, of course, in the area of online. So here's just a slide that shows you right now the trajectory for the Latino population, and it's going to continue to increase. And currently, Latinos comprise 27% of the county's residents, and our student body is 34%. So I think we're doing a pretty good job in terms of serving out, and we can also do better. But as you know, there's different challenges in serving this population than with the traditional student. Okay, and it's projected to grow as we move along. So what do we need to do? You know, our current strategies, we're doing a lot more research, outreach in the community. We have a 9%, almost 10% increase in enrollment at our Southwest Center. We're about 1,700 students there now, and we could continue to grow there because many of those students, of course, need English training, and our wonderful ESL department is really doing a great job in revising their curriculum to accelerate their pathway to college. We have a new South County, i.e. Petaluma, outreach coordinator, and we've made 5,000 contacts in the past year. Older adults, again, 1 out of 4 Sonoma County residents by 2025 will be 64 or older. Sonoma County's population, of course, is primarily white, and this is a population that wants services. I've talked to folks, and thanks to the leadership of Abe Farkas and Kelly and others, we are growing back our older adults program. So we're increasing personal enrichment offerings. If you see our community ed, we're also increasing non-credit programming for older adults. And the third bullet is something that I feel very strongly about is I'm lobbying with our board to try to have the state Board of Governors maybe revisit this strict repeatability policy. Yeah. When the policy was implemented, it was a time when we were impacted. Basically, we had no seats, so it made sense to say those who had a bite of the apple first, you got to get in the back of the line. So they implemented this. But if you fast forward 5 years later, we do have capacity. So why would we turn away a tax-paying citizen who wants to come learn art, music, language? It just makes no sense, and it's wrong-headed. So we're going to lobby very hard. I'll be working with AFA and SCIU. Yeah. Oops. Okay. Middle class students. Again, these are the Sonoma County projections on 12th grade public high school enrollment. You know, so approximately half of the graduates of high schools in Sonoma County will come to the JC, and we have to continue to press to let them know that this is a great choice, a destination rather than an alternative. And many of the folks who have legacies, parents who went to the JC really pushed their kids there. We have a lot of new residents who don't know how great SRJC is, and that's what I think Kathy was referring to, is that we have to all become ambassadors for the college. And I'll get a little more into that later. So middle class students, again, we're looking at developing a neighbor-to-neighbor approach. We're going to adopt high schools and middle schools. And we're going to ask all of you, invite you to become part of these teams of where you live in your neighborhood. Many of you have children who are in high schools in Rincon Valley or Bennett Valley or Sebastopol. So we're going to develop teams of where you live, not where you work, and really try to develop a different approach. I've also had conversations with Jordan Cabahal about student ambassadors. So the missing link in our outreach efforts is that we need to bring faculty and show you off to our high school students and middle school students to get them excited about going to college. And we need students like Jordan and others to come forward, and they're the best salespeople because those are their peers and colleagues. You know, we're going to continue to expand the Doyle. We're promoting against transfer curriculums, transfer students. The Sonoma Promise is a program we're going to unveil later this semester that's going to really, hopefully, make college affordable for all students. Incumbent workers. This is a group of population that I've always been intrigued in, and it's something that I was introduced to when I was working at the Department of Education in Washington. You know, 45% of Sonoma County residents have at least a high school diploma but no post-secondary degree. So 1 out of 4 residents are potential students that we have to basically figure out how to get them back so that they can have a career path, because they're basically going to be stuck in their careers if they don't get any more training. 12% have less than high school or GED, and 21 out of 4 have some college but no degree. So people probably stopped out because they had family responsibilities, or they weren't prepared right, or they weren't advised correctly. So what are some of the strategies? We're promoting skill builder courses. We have to create cohort degrees that are more time efficient for people who are working. We have to increase adult basic ed, which we're doing through Mary Kay's leadership and Nancy Miller on the non-credit side. And we're going to schedule courses outside of regular work hours. And one of the new monikers we're looking at is SRJC works when you don't. So just that notion that we're available. We have online classes, we have evening classes, we have classes, and you shouldn't look at your working life as a barrier to coming back to college. And of course, online enrollment. Enrollments online have increased, 350%, and the trajectory of our students wanting online classes, I think, is a function of the fact that we have a new generation of students who are very comfortable learning online, and we have to figure out a way to meet that demand, because if they don't take classes here, they'll go elsewhere for online classes. And this is just a comparison chart of some sister institutions. Currently, only 8.5% of our instruction is offered online. So it's not like online's taking over the college. It's like when I introduced international students, they said, oh, there's 65 international students out of 28,000. They're going to take over. I mean, that sounds like a Donald Trump speech. Come on. So whereas Foothill College has 20%, Miracosta 24%, and Mount San Jacinto 17%. And scheduling, of course, we surveyed our students, and thanks to Robert Ethington and Ricardo and Marty Lee, and asked the students who are not coming back for the next semester, why aren't you coming back? And this is very revealing, right? 30%, 7% said they're not available when I need to take them. And that even beats parking, which was 30%. 29% said I couldn't get into the classes at all, they're full. 22% said they're not available at the location I want to take them. So students vote with their enrollments. So the classes that Casey told me that fill first are evening and online classes. So we're missing opportunities when we're not offering classes either evening or online, if we want to get to that 20,000 goal. So in response, we're trying to really look at more online classes. One of the challenges, as as department chairs, is we have a shortage of adjuncts, and that's really because of the tremendous hiring that's gone on statewide. There are over 1,100 full-time faculty positions that were out there this year, so a lot of our part-time pools are deleted. And in response to that, I want to thank again Karen and Mary Kay. We're going to do an adjunct faculty job fair at Bertolini. So if you know friends, neighbors who have degrees, who meet the minimum quals, who are interested in teaching a class or two here, that's a way to draw them to the college. We're going to be proactive, and I'm really excited about that. I've already said we need to look at increasing where the demand is. We need to sequence and schedule courses so students have the opportunity to finish within 2 years. Time is the enemy. If I learn nothing else from being in Washington, D.C., is that the longer you keep students from graduating, they're going to get discouraged and they're going to drop out. Expanding, again, other known strategies and again, these are things that I've talked to other faculty and other folks about in other colleges, is possibly creating intersessions and developing cohort programs and non-traditional. So again, it's like kind of just pivoting to delivering education to where the student demand is. And of course, the third leg of the stool is retention. And why is retention important, right? And I'll get to the slide. 72% of our full-time students persisted last year, which is, okay, we could do better, of course. And then 46% part-time students is very low. And time to degree is 5 years is the median time to it. That's just way too long, And right now, we're looking at, I know Petaluma's piloting a fast track program, and I think we need to look more closely at how do we expand those and whether students will respond to them. So why is this important? So I asked Doug Roberts, if we enrolled and retained just one more student in every section, what would that mean for us? It would mean an additional 570 FTEs, and currently we're about 1,500 short to be where we need to be to get to that 20,000. And the $3 million of our deficit, half of it would go away. So again, I want to thank all of you who are participating in the Student Success, Student Equity programs. We're starting to see some traction. Early results of the evaluations of these programs and interventions are showing some promise. And it's very difficult unless you really commit to it over a long period. So I really want to challenge the faculty and implore you to look at retention strategies. And for us as administrators, our job is to ask you, what do you need to help us keep those students in the retention? And when I talked to Hal recently, he said at the first day of class, I say to them as I go through my syllabus, if any of you are thinking about dropping out, come talk to me first. And I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep you here. So some things don't cost anything. It's just common sense, you know. Learning communities, again, our connections program, we're finding out that we're getting a lot higher retention when we have some type of these cohort programs and learning communities. So the associate degree transfer track, again, that's a wonderful track. It has already taken off 1.2 years out of the average 5. Again, transfer tracks fill at a large rate. So there's it's not a panacea, but again, it's another way of looking at things. Okay. Time to degree, again. Orientation is really important. So together we can do it, right? I think I just want to say again, if you're interested in discussing these areas further, the workshop that Mary Kay and Robin and Eric are convening is a starting point for that. But we're not going to retire our deficit just by instruction alone. On the operational side, I'm really excited to announce that we're seriously looking at implementing an aggressive energy initiative that will reduce our energy bills to net zero. By expanding solar panels and possibly waterless toilets, we can save $1.5 million in our annual energy bills and help reduce our deficit. You know, so I want to invite you to join me in the 20,000 at 2020 campaign. You'll be asked for your input and participation to actualize this plan. I know we can do it because we did it before. When I challenged you to help me develop a strategic plan, you came through. When I asked you to help me with the 2030 plan, you came through. So I ask you to join me in a renewed commitment for these next 100 years. And really, I want to close, and I think it's apropos, with a quote at a time when John Kennedy, 56 years ago, upon accepting his nomination for his party, said, "We are not here to curse the darkness, but to light the candle that can guide us through that darkness to a safe and sane future. For the world is changing, the old era is ending, the old ways will not do." I believe our students are the candles that will guide our future. Let us kindle their flames through education and watch them build upon the foundations we have set before them. In doing so, our future will be so bright that I'll need sunglasses. I look forward to another century of educational excellence at SRJC. Have a great semester, and go Bear Cubs. Thank you. Now, thank you. Now I'd like to share with you a video created by our foundation in preparation for our 100th anniversary, featuring a man who's become a friend of mine, a Centennial himself, Al Magini, whom Magini Hall is named after. You don't want to miss this.
It has been over 100 years since it all began. An idea brought to life by a group of determined women. With the support of a strong community, Santa Rosa Junior College was formed in 1918. It began without a permanent location and with only 19 students, but the founders must have known that they were creating something much bigger. Santa Rosa Junior College has since been home to more than 1 million students, and I am proud to be part of this remarkable story. As a long-standing member of the Board of Trustees and as an instructor, I've had the great privilege of working to serve the very best of our region. I have lived for more than 100 years. I have seen the world around me change in ways I never thought possible. Yet in my 100 years, I have seen one thing remain constant: SRJC and the power of education. There is something special about the JC graduation. Watching these students with their families and friends is inspiring. I don't know their names or stories, but they are full of hope and purpose. They are the single parent and the future nurse who will care for our families like her own. They are the first-generation college student and future botanist who will develop sustainable ways for us to feed the world. They are the foster youth and future lawyer who will serve as an advocate for others. They are the military veteran and future business leader who will introduce the world to new technology. They are future journalists who will touch hearts and future teachers who will change minds. They are the future first responders who will save lives. Graduation is a celebration of great accomplishments, but it's only the beginning. These graduates will take what they have learned at SRJC out into our community and the world around us to change it and to make it better. Graduation is a constant reminder that Santa Rosa Junior College impacts the lives of many, and that education is where it all begins. I can only imagine the possibilities and the progress that will be made as SRJC moves through its next century. From one centenarian to another, I offer my appreciation and congratulations. Here's to the next 100 years.